Joshua Landis is the director of the Center for Middle East Studies at the University of Oklahoma, and he joins me now live from Oklahoma City. Thank you so much for joining us, Joshua, on the Al Jazeera News Hour. We have seen several videos out of Syria which purport to show these massive amounts of Captagon. What do we know about how significant the trade of this drug was to the Assad regime?
Well, during the last 4 or 5 years, it's become very important. As you know, Syria was a failed state. The regime had become completely corrupt, and it didn't have any money. After all, the United States held the gas and oil, and there were very severe sanctions, and he was trying to rebuild. Of course, he couldn't rebuild, and the whole country was running on fumes with almost no electricity, and Captagon became an alternative for the Assad regime, and it went right up to Maher al-Assad, the brother of Bashar al-Assad, who was in charge of collecting the money from this very lucrative trade that bedeviled all the surrounding countries.
Well, you've mentioned there the surrounding countries. How much of a problem did the export of Captagon, or has it been, for Syria's neighbors?
Oh, it's been a terrible a scourge for Saudi Arabia, Jordan in particular, where it was smuggled out across the border to Jordan and then down towards Saudi Arabia. Of course, it went overseas as well. It went through Lebanon. It was pervasive in the Middle East, and there were major, it's been turning up whole shiploads of thousands and thousands of pills being shipped all over. So it was a major scourge in the Middle East.
What efforts did we see around the region to stop the flow of this drug into their countries?
Well, there were major busts. Saudi Arabia made major busts, but Jordan also got into a number of shooting battles right on the Syrian border because smugglers were constantly trying to take it across the border. Jordan was trying to shut them down. One important smuggling ring was attacked, and a whole family was killed by Jordan. And it was a constant bone of contention. And
Joshua, surely this will also pose something of a challenge for the incoming administration.
Yes, it's going to. Shutting down this source of income is going to leave the state without anything. And, 50% of government receipts before the civil war came from oil and gas. And today, Syria's got no oil and gas industry. And what small amount is being produced is under the control of the Americans. And the first thing that this new government is going to have to do is ask for that back, ask for sanctions to be lifted. And I'm sure that Qatar and Turkey and other countries are stepping forward with important amounts of money to replace this Captagon trade. But Syria needs to rebuild desperately. And that's what the new government is going to be looking to do, is to get outside investment to replace these terrible sources of income that the old regime had built up.
Joshua, given the scale of this trade and what was happening inside Syria, some 80% of Captagon worldwide produced in Syria, that's an estimate there. What are the steps that would be needed to shut this trade down for the new government?
Well, I think the new government was going to take this as a sign of its ability to clean up the country and to stop this terrible corruption. But of course, as is clear, there's a desperate need for money. So I think that Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, the countries that were really affected badly by this drug trade, will step forward and try to replace that income by helping out this new government. But of course, the entire international community needs to step forward. And we're seeing stability return to Syria very rapidly. This government has done many things right, and that's important in its effort to step forward and win the confidence of the international community.
Thank you so much, Joshua. That's Joshua Landis, who is the director of the Center for Middle East Studies at the University of Oklahoma.
Pleasure.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.